This dude is a wage slave loser who works a 9 to 5, spams memes in general, until a demon king summons him to be one of his 4 generals to unify the whole world. However, he meets a half-dragon baddie he cannot resist, and he's hoping to unify with her in the bedroom. Time to change into my ugly voice.
The story revolves around an employee named Denosuk who works at a prestigious company. Despite his pathetic appearance, he tries his best when it comes to work and works with passion, but he is underappreciated while his colleagues are promoted. After 5 years, Denosuk received notification that he would have to travel to work at the company's overseas branch. When the decision was made, he began to hear from his colleagues that he would have to build a factory from scratch, and he was devastated. After that, Denosuk traveled, and when he arrived, he was shocked that the factory suffered from a shortage of materials and labor. But the company told him to act according to the budget set for the project, and after the workers abandoned him in difficult circumstances, he had to work to build the factory from scratch alone. As time went on, workers gradually started coming to work in the factory until things were going well. But that didn't last long for Denosuk, as he was ordered to move to another country, and his efforts were not recognized. After that, Denosuk wandered around, dissatisfied with his situation and how things were going, and suddenly he was hit by an old woman on a motorcycle and transported to another world after being summoned by the Demon King and his followers. Denosuk found himself surrounded by strange non-human beings. The Demon King welcomed him and was soon shocked that he already knew his name. He told him that he had summoned him to be one of the 4 generals in his army and that he would take over the position of Director of International Operations. Denosuk is surprised that a loser like him was chosen to be in the Demon King's elite army. He's surprised that the Demon King knows everything about his career history. Then he told him that he was sure that he was suitable to be a member of his army because of his career history. And although Denosuk was happy with his appreciation, it seemed to him like leaving humanity instead of changing his career path. Then he found the Demon King telling him that he would be one of the elite in his army and would give him full privileges and authority, as well as a salary equal to that of his department heads. And Denosuk was surprised that he couldn't find a reason to refuse amidst all this. The Demon King then added that he has the freedom to choose whether to join him or not, and will return him to his world if he refuses. Denosuk felt that he was a good boss for respecting the rights of workers and wished he had a boss like him. When he was in a position to make a decision, he remembered the humiliating treatment he received at his job and told the king that he didn't live up to the company's expectations and was treated like garbage, and that there was no reason for a loser like him to work for them. The Demon King told him not to accept the nonsense of fools who only pay attention to what they see in front of them and do not notice what is being done behind the scenes, and that after seeing the effort he puts into his world, he decided to make him work for him and bring out his full potential to give his best. Omandra told him that he was just a weak human who didn't have the skills to become an elite, and Jinom and Sylphid agreed with her. Denosuk was shocked that he was forced to take a test in the demon world and told the king that he couldn't fight and had no strength. But before he could finish his sentence, Omandra interrupted him and decided to test him by throwing a thunderous kick at him. Denosuk felt that he would die from her blow, but the Demon King stopped her before she reached him and told her that the test would be of a different kind. They noticed that he lost consciousness while still standing in front of them in shock, but the three objected to a weak human being becoming one of the elite, as he would be devoured if he competed for power with monsters and half-humans. The king tells them that he knows very well that there is a rift within the army, and that is precisely why he decided to use Denosuk, and that what he expects from him is not a solid body or a certain strength. As he speaks, Denosuk regains consciousness and thinks that he is still about to receive a crushing blow. Then the Demon King tells him that he doesn't want physical strength and will put him to a test that suits him, trying to make a deal with one of the clans surrounding their army, the Bull clan, as the army is having trouble negotiating with them. Denosuk was frustrated that he was forced to negotiate with a non-human race and convinced them to ally with the Demon King's army. As he was on his way to meet the clan leader, Omandra told him that she didn't expect him to pass this test. He thought she was right, as he was just a useless employee without any supernatural ability. But when he remembered the Demon King's words to him, he realized that he had always wanted to work for a boss who needed him and felt the desire to accomplish something under his leadership and live up to his expectations. Omandra warned him that the bulls were fierce and that he had to make sure he got out of the room alive in case of success or failure. When the door opened wide, he was shocked that he was standing in front of a giant bull and realized why they had locked him in the largest room they had and thought it was impossible to reach an agreement with him without using force, while Omandra told him that she would negotiate with him in front of him to see how things were going. Then she approached the bull named Talius and started talking to him, and Denosuk thought that he survived, but she played the role of mediator between them. But soon Omandra lost her temper and started yelling at him, which did not lead to a solution as usual. After they left the room, she told him that the Bull clan was open to a deal at first, until Talius began to reject all proposals for the terms of the Demon King's army, and she tried for several days to reach a satisfactory agreement with him, but to no avail, as he tried to bring in a bunch of fodder and scattered it in the room and blamed Talius for the failure of the negotiations. Denosuk felt compelled to clean up the mess she had made with her violent negotiating style and felt that there there was no way he could have a conversation with a creature of that size. Denosuk then found himself inside a restaurant as he walked around, thinking about it as he ate, until he remembered that he had encountered a similar situation in his world where a foreign client kept rejecting his company's proposals and kept saying no all the time. And Juan was about to give up. It finally worked out after he looked into the client's eyes, and they were able to understand each other. Denosuk came back with the intention of passing the test and coming to an agreement with Talius. Omandra, on the other hand, told the Demon King that she didn't think he could negotiate with Talius and pass the test. When she returned to his room, she was surprised to see Denosuk fiddling with the fodder. He told her that he intended to have a proper conversation with Talius and kept bundling the fodder, but she told him that his large size was getting in the way of their negotiations. Denosuk told her that she had given up too quickly and that body size had nothing to do with the progress of negotiations, as the failure to close a deal was due to misunderstandings between the two parties. Then he decided to use his way of solving things and walked into the room, carrying the bags of fodder. Omandra noticed that his facial expressions, which showed that he was just a coward and weak, disappeared, and he suddenly became confident. The next day, when Omandra entered the room, she was surprised that it had become a pile of garbage because of the feed, and she guessed that the negotiations had failed because of the chaos in the place. Denosuk appears behind her and tells her that Talius is meeting with the Demon King to make an agreement with him after they agreed to the clan's alliance with the army yesterday. She doesn't believe that he was able to reach a solution with Talius in one night. When she asked him how he did it, he told her that he remembered that he had a similar situation in his world and that the client kept saying no throughout the meeting until he somehow managed to convince him and found him reaching out to shake his hand after he was about to give up. He then added that Talius was puzzled when she told him earlier about her intention to end the negotiations with him and did not know why, and that what helped to reach an agreement with him was to bring fodder to his room, as it is considered polite in their clan that the bulls use it to sleep, and that when the fodder was taken from the room, Talius had to sleep on the floor and suffered from insomnia. Omandra realized that she was wrong in the way she used to negotiate with Talius, and that she misunderstood him, while he felt annoyed that he could not get his idea across to her. And while they were talking, Talius joined them and told her that he was also at fault for the failure of negotiations in the past, because he did not know that his method was rude. He apologized and shook her hand after reaching an agreement with the Demon King and expressed his gratitude to Denosuk for helping to make the negotiations successful. After they said goodbye, Omandra realized that Denosuk had the ability to notice details that others would not normally be able to perceive. The Demon King told her that this is the talent that Denosuk possesses, then officially welcomed him as a new member of his army and told him that no one would question his abilities after he passed the test, then gave Denosuk a gold bracelet to be officially appointed as an elite general and told him not to hesitate about anything related to his position and to do what he sees fit. Then he found Omandra raising her arm in front of him while wearing a similar bracelet, and when he stood in front of her like a fool, she shouted at him to raise his arm and then shook his hand in a special way to welcome him as an elite general in the manner of her clan. And Denosuk felt that luck had finally begun to favor him and he would start a new career as he wished, while the Demon King had high hopes for him. The next day, Denosuk thought that he never imagined that he would end up moving to another world and becoming one of the elite in the Demon King's army. And as he sat in his new office, he found that he had no choice but to move forward for the Demon King, who recognized him. He then decided to go say hello to Generals Sylphid and Genome to have a proper conversation with them. When he went to Sylphid's office, her assistant told him that she had been absent for a while, introduced herself as Blinda, and then closed the door without waiting for a response. Denosuk decides not to think about it too much and goes to the Genome office. On his way, he encounters Omandra, who tells him that the Demon King wants to meet him about a new assignment. After he goes to meet him, the king instructs him to negotiate with the Ogre clan to ally with their army to strengthen his power. Then he added that the Ogres had an army as strong as theirs, which would be mutually beneficial, and that he had chosen him specifically to make the deal because it would be difficult. Denosuk was confused, so Omandra told him that she would accompany him to where the Ogre leader was so that she wouldn't have to worry about him. On the way, Denosuk wanted to meet Genome before they left to gather information, as he realized that she leads all those who fall under the category of hominids, to which the Ogres also belong. Omandra refused to go with him and decided to check the carriage outside, so Denosuk had to go to meet her alone and found that she was leading training for the humanoid forces. And when she took a break, he told her that he wanted to ask her about the Ogres, and she realized that he had been assigned to negotiate with them and told him that the leader of the Ogres is called Ogre, and he is a difficult person because of his dictatorship. When Omandra joins them, she asks him to remove her from the training ground because she is causing stress to her followers because she is a demon. Denosuk is surprised to see her fuming behind him and tells him that she came to pick him up when he was late. In the evening, Denosuk and Omandra arrived at the Ogre clan's headquarters and waited at the gate for a long time, which angered Omandra, and the guards told her that no one can be allowed past the gate without the Ogre leader's permission. Denosuk remembered in his world that negotiations are always difficult when his company's competitor is involved and realized that the negotiations negotiation game had already started before he met the boss, and that he was deliberately making them wait to confuse them. He tried to talk Omandra down, but it only made her angrier because she thought the ogres were underestimating them. Then Ogre's assistant, Olulu, appeared and let them in. On the way in, Omandra told him not to let his guard down in front of the ogres. Then they entered Ogre's room, and Omandra told him that they had come to negotiate with him. But before she finished speaking, he ordered her to keep quiet because he hates women and doesn't want to hear her talking without permission. Then Denosuk noticed that Omandra is quick-tempered and easily provoked. Then the two were surprised by Ogre's condition to bring in the head of the Demon King in exchange for agreeing to the cooperation of the ogres with their army. Omandra almost lost her temper and attacked him for underestimating them, but Denosuk stopped her and decided to end the negotiations with him by asking for a period of time to think. After they left, Omandra vowed to take Ogre's life for insulting the Demon King, but Denosuk tried to calm her down and convince her that Ogre's goal was to anger them, so that the negotiations would fail, as he had no intention of negotiating in the first place, but went to avoid unnecessary conflicts, and may blame them for the failure of the negotiations in the end. Omandra wonders if it doesn't make him angry, and he replies that he is angry, but if he expresses his displeasure right now, it will put the Demon King in an awkward position, and the ogres may end up allying with another power. Omandra realized that he had a strategy for negotiating and apologized that she was about to ruin it. He told her that if it wasn't for her, he might have been the one who got angry. While they were talking, Olulu joined them and told them that she was the ogre's daughter, and they were surprised when she asked them to overthrow her father and remove him from office by any means. She then took them to the castle's basement and told them that the clan was in financial trouble at the moment, as this basement had been full of food in the past. Denosuk was not surprised, as he had noticed since coming that the armor of the soldiers and guards was worn out, and the castle was too dark and looked like a giant company in recession. Olulu tells them that the only way to rebuild the clan is to rely on the demon army, but her father refuses to discuss the matter, in addition to being sick despite his attempt to pretend to be strong, which is why their meeting with him was postponed, and she expresses her concern that her father will die suddenly, as this will cause chaos within the clan. Denosuk told her that her behavior was reckless, as a member of an organization should not easily talk about secrets related to internal affairs, and that she should keep quiet about the information about her father's health. Olulu felt it was a good person to draw her attention to her mistakes instead of taking advantage of the situation. Denosuk was confused and quickly became shocked when she offered to marry him in exchange for him becoming the new clan leader. Omandra tells him that they need someone like him for the clan to survive. When Denosuk is in a quandary and can refuse, Omandra intervenes and tells her to give them some time to think. After they return to the headquarters, Denosuk thinks about the mess he's gotten himself into. Omandra was with him, arguing with the bar owner about who was the strongest animal in the forest. As he listened to them, he had an idea and decided to use it to negotiate. The next day, he called Omandra up early in the morning and told her they were going somewhere else. If all went well, Ogre himself would ask to negotiate with them. A week later, Ogre summoned them to negotiate, irritated by the thought of other races joining their army. It turns out that Denosuk had included the races previously supported by the Ogre clan to put them under pressure and make Ogre want to negotiate with them. He then told Ogre that the other races were struggling to make ends meet, so they readily agreed to join them. Ogre told him that this entire region is ruled by ogres, making it illegal to ally with other races without his permission. Denosuk felt that he was becoming more emotional and less logical in discussing the matter, ensuring the success of his plan. Then Ogre was surprised when he told him that the alliance was not done alone, but also in conjunction with the ogres, as his daughter Olulu helped him make deals with the other races, and when she joined them, she told her father that the future of the human race should be their top priority, and this can only be done in cooperation with the demon army, and did not give him the opportunity to refuse. Then she felt sad about having to stand up to him, and remembered when she was young, when her father was strong and able to lead the clan, and told him that he was now old and sick. And then Denosuk intervened and suggested that they form an alliance with an equal partnership instead of including them as followers. Then he added that joining them as a follower would not make much difference, as the Demon King allows the independence of other races. Ogre gave up and asked him to give him time to think, so he left with Omandra feeling victorious, as he was sure that he would accept his offer, but it was only a matter of time. A few days later, Ogre called Omandra to tell her of his intention to make a deal with the king, and when she told Denosuk about it, he seemed happy about the news, but he was busy with an important matter, and it turned out that the Demon King assigned him to appoint a direct subordinate to him, so he became confused about who he would choose for this task. Then it occurred to him that he should choose her for the position, and she felt happy that he wanted them to become partners even though they had just met. Then he found Olulu entering his office and telling him that she had been sent to make the agreement as a representative of the clan, and expressed her gratitude to him for convincing Ogre to be more flexible in leading the clan, which made Omandra jealous. Denosuk tells her that he looks forward to working with her and decides to appoint her as his subordinate alongside Omandra, and thinks to himself that they will have to be more vigilant in the coming period to ensure the stability of their army. A few days later, Olulu succeeded in in making an agreement with the Bear clan and told Denosuk that he would be honored with the Distinguished Service Award after he succeeded in negotiating with the ogres, and that a ceremony would be held in his honor. And he felt confused because he had never received any praise before and now he would be honored. Then he felt that he had energy and curiosity to learn more about the world after more races joined them. Then he was surprised by Olmandra inviting him to go with her on a hunting trip near the forest, and told him on their way that a magical monster had eaten 5 ogres and caused so much damage to the area that the army received a request to exterminate it. Denosuk was shocked that this was the mission for which she had summoned him, and she told him that the ogres had hired them because they were stronger than they were, since the law of nature is that the weak are eaten, and he realized that the troubles of this world are bigger than he expected. Olmandra found a certain type of mushroom and remembered that the ogres had been attacked while collecting it, and thought that if they positioned themselves here, they would be able to find the monster. Denosuk was shocked to see a huge wild boar standing behind them. Olmandra decided to fight back and managed to do some serious damage with a crushing kick to the boar. The boar retaliated and started throwing tons of stones at her, then lunged at her and tried to headbutt her, but she was able to dodge him and hit him back. Denosuk thought that the pig had the advantage over Olmandra in terms of physique and was surprised to notice that she had no weapon. Olmandra decided to fight the pig with all her might and reinforced her right arm with an iron shield. Denosuk was surprised to see her grab one of his fangs, hold it up, and twist it, causing it to bleed out and die instantly. Denosuk realizes how powerful she is. In the evening, the ogres express their gratitude to her, and Olmandra decides to have dinner together to celebrate the elimination of the monster that caused them trouble. Denosuk is excited because he will eat something new in this world for the first time since he has been eating porridge ever since he moved here. However, he was soon disappointed when the piece of meat turned to ashes due to Olmandra's overcooking with fire, and when she fed it to him, he realized that he had eaten the worst dish in his life and felt stressed that he was constantly going through culture shock. He decides to cook the food himself and finds that the ogres use a communal oven because it's too expensive. After he finishes cooking the food the human way, it tastes so good that he suggests that he teaches them how to cook some foods. Olmandra was furious and told him that this was belittling him as one of the elite generals. He told her that they could tell the economic status of a country by their eating habits and that ogres lacked culinary knowledge because they were poor. Olmandra acknowledged the fact that they were poor compared to the neighboring villages and countries and thought it was the duty of the elite generals to help improve the situation. They decided to turn back, and Olmandra used a huge fireball to light the way. He was curious about Sylphid's identity. She told him that she was most likely a succubus and told him that she never attended meetings in person, preferring to communicate remotely. He then thought to advise her to equip herself with weapons so that she could eliminate her enemies effortlessly as she had done today. Olmandra was furious and told him that he was insulting her even if he was right. She decided to change the plan and told him to stay here for the night and return with the ogre procession in the morning, and expressed her displeasure at trusting him as a mere mortal from another world. After she left him behind, Denosuk felt like he was in trouble because he had accidentally made her angry and he couldn't stay in the forest alone at night. So he had no choice but to run after her as fast as he could and apologize before he was killed by a monster. The next day, Denosuk ended up returning in the morning with the ogre procession, and when the Demon King asked him why he didn't return with Olmandra, Denosuk had to tell him what happened and felt that he wasn't fit to be an elite general and decided to leave his position to those who deserved it. The king told him not to act rashly and ordered him to go and resolve the misunderstanding between him and her and to take it as a lesson in how this world works. Denosuk sat alone thinking about why Olmandra was so angry with him and remembered when she said that his practical thinking was not suited to demons. He kept thinking that demons are very brutal, unlike ogres, and ogres are supposed to be the brutal ones, and when he remembered the ability of demons to use magic, he wondered if all races were incapable of using it. It occurred to him to investigate the matter by researching documents, and he realized that demons train their bodies more frequently than other races in order to enhance the power of their magic, and realized that this is why they always wear revealing clothes to show off their power. He realized that by suggesting that she wear clothing that would protect her from physical attacks, he had rejected her entire existence and humiliated her. He felt ashamed that he had fallen into a culture shock trap with Olmandra and hadn't learned from her negotiation with Talius. Olmandra, meanwhile, was so angry that she couldn't control her hysteria that she lunged at Olulu, told her that Denosuk hated her, and then started crying. Olulu had no idea what Olmandra was talking about, but after she learned the whole story, she told her that she realized that Denosuk had different standards from all of them, and that exposing one's body might be frowned upon in his beliefs. Olmandra was shocked by the fact that her display of power in front of him had turned against her, and that she had made a huge mistake. When she sadly asked Olulu what she should do, she remembered that he had told her something on her first day working with him, and that he had told her to act freely and not be afraid to make mistakes. She told Olmandra to trust him because he wouldn't hate her just because she made a mistake. On the other hand, Denosuk was at the bar thinking about what to do, and while he was eating, he noticed that the owner of the bar was smiling unusually. Then he had an idea and rushed to the castle until after deciding to try to convey his feelings to her sincerely. When he arrived, he found her walking towards him quickly as if she was looking for him. Then he told her that her body is very sexy while she said that she is not obsessed and just wanted to get some compliments from him. Realizing what they had said to each other in an impulsive moment, they began to justify what they had said to each other. Then he bowed before her apologetically and told her that he did not know more about her. And Omandra realized that he had done research on demons, which made her feel ashamed and happy. Then she apologized to him for unintentionally imposing her standards on him. She thought it was an indirect confession of love, while he was thinking that he would be able to work with her and expand the demon army. After that, Denosuk was awarded the Distinguished Service Medal for his efforts in strengthening the army. Then the Demon King gave him a magic stone as a recognition of his success and achievements in a short time, telling him that he did not achieve these achievements alone. Then he went to Omandra and knelt in front of her to give her the magic stone as his business partner, but she blushed and felt confused, as giving a magic stone to a girl of the opposite sex is considered a marriage proposal in their world. A few days later, Denosuk was surprised by a sudden summons from the Demon King. He felt confused and kept thinking if he had inadvertently messed something up, and he couldn't help himself, apologizing and begging him to give him another chance. The Demon King marveled at his behavior and told him that his lack of self-confidence was his only flaw and that he just wanted to ask him how he saw the relationship between demons and half-humans from his point of view, to which Denosuk replied that they are different from each other, but demons have the advantage with their ability to use magic, which makes half-humans feel inferior. The king ordered him to think of a way to allow all races to use magic. Denosuk was confused and told him that he himself lacks this ability, making it beyond his area of expertise, so the king gave him another magic stone to help him use magic. Then he added that he would appoint a magic researcher for him, General Sylphid, and warned him that she was a difficult person, and Denosuk felt that he had a long journey ahead of him in finding a solution that would make all races equally powerful. After Denosuk left the king's chamber, Omandra watched him from afar and realized that he had been given another mission. She was thrilled when she looked at the magic stone he had already given her and thought he wanted to marry her. Denosuk began researching magic stones to find out what they are. After he finished his work, Olulu brought him coffee and advised him to leave early because he looked tired. He told her that he would stay for a while. When he asked her about the possibility of half-humans using magic with stones, she told him that skill was required even if they had enough stones. Denosuk realized that he would need more information for research and development, and decided to summon the courage to go and talk to Sylphid. When he went to her room, Blinda greeted him and told him that she was not present as usual. Denosuk was surprised as she wasn't there, even though the Demon King had arranged for them to meet, and found that Blinda was deliberately trying to end the conversation quickly so that he could leave. Omandra is shocked by his behavior and thinks he's harassing Blinda, while Denosuk wonders if Blinda is the same as Sylphid and tells her that there are 3 reasons why he thinks so. Then he added that the first reason is that she wears glasses, since demons are very particular about their appearance, and Blinda's name is not listed in the army's organizational chart, and the Demon King himself told him that she likes to avoid hard work by disguising herself. Sylphid was furious that he found out about her, and when he asked her why she hid her identity in front of him all this time, she told him that she would end up with a huge amount of work if he found out about her, and before he could tell her what he wanted her to do, she flatly refused. When he asked her why and told her that the Demon King had commissioned them to work together, she told him that she didn't remake something that was already made. Then she decided to show him something special and pulled out a magic ball consisting of a metal that magical energy can easily penetrate, and the ball consists of several stones. Then she added that this device allows the user to cast a large number of spells and that she had finished making it after years of research. Denosuk was excited and thought about starting mass production, but his determination quickly disappeared when he learned that the cost of making one device is 10 million. Sylphid told him that the reason for the high cost was due to the rare stones used, as well as the higher grade stones. Denosuk realized that the Demon King wanted him to find a solution to the issue of mass production of an expensive magical object. Sylphid advised him to give up quickly because she had no intention of helping him with money, but he came up with the idea that they could make a device that allowed only one spell to be used, which would cut costs, and then gave her the stone he had to make a prototype. Sylphid was excited by the idea and decided to devote her time to creating a new device. He ended up being forced to stay with her, and she dragged him to the basement where her lab was located. At midnight, Omandra became suspicious and started banging on the door to confirm her suspicions. The next day, Denosuk was exhausted from staying awake all day because of Sylphid, while Sylphid was happy that she had succeeded in making a magical device in one night and decided to use Denosuk as a test subject after he rested for an hour. Denosuk thought about going for some food and took a nap, but he quickly fell to the ground after Omandra rushed in and started interrogating him, then was surprised to see Sylphid's familiar appearance and was surprised when she told her that there was no one else in the room. Olulu and Lilim joined them to tell them that a large group of ostriches were attacking several cities near them, and that the Demon King had ordered them to take care of it. Sylphid was excited and saw this as a good opportunity to try out her new weapon. When Denosuk noticed some children nearby. He told them to hide away from the area. Sylphid then gave him the device and told him to try it himself, warning him that he would lose his hand if he failed to cast a spell. Then she told him how to use the stone to activate the magic, and he began to imagine that the stone was part of his body. And when he followed her instructions, he succeeded in activating his first spell, but he could not celebrate for long because the ostriches were about to attack them, and Sylphid ordered him to use what he had learned to eliminate them. Denisuk trembled in fear and thought that there was no way he could defeat them when he had just learned magic, but he had no choice but to act quickly, and managed to hit the ostriches with a series of flame balls, and his spirits rose because he succeeded in using magic even though he was human. Suddenly, the device malfunctioned and he couldn't shoot anymore. At the same time, he realized that he was going to die when he saw an ostrich jumping directly at him, so Sylphid intervened by putting a protective barrier around him, forcing the ostriches to retreat. After that, they discovered that the magic stone had burned out due to overloading. Sylphid told him that it was a low-cost stone, so it would not last long, and she considered the experiment a failure even though they had defeated the ostriches. When they were alone, Sylphid took off her mask and remembered the first time she decided to make magical items, and told him that she was born into a family of merchant elves but had to leave home for certain reasons, and received a lot of support from the half-humans at the time, which prompted her to make magical devices to give them strength after realizing that they were poor and lived a harsh life. She then added that she was so absorbed in her work that she forgot the purpose of her research, and told her that what researchers want all the time is to save weak people like them, and she thought that the ostrich flock would soon return to attack the demi-humans again, so they should think of a solution that would help them eliminate them without exhausting the stones. Denisuk remembered when he used to hang out at his favorite bar to clear his head, but he happened to run into Olmandra this time and kept observing her suspicious eating habits. While he was eating, he came up with a good idea and asked Sylphid to make 10 magic stones tonight. She told him that she wouldn't be able to improve it due to lack of equipment, but he didn't care and wanted her to make a large number of stones. The next day, the ostrich flock attacked again, and Denisuk decided to test his idea and activated the magic stones dug into the ground at once. The stones made an annoying sound when activated, forcing the ostriches to stop and quickly flee. Denisuk realized that this sound annoyed the ostriches to the point of repulsion, so he succeeded in driving them away without using up all the stones. Denisuk and Sylphid then returned to the Demon King and told him how they had deterred the flock of ostriches. Denisuk told him that the idea worked against ostriches, pigs, and wolves, and suggested distributing the magic stones in neighboring villages to minimize the damage caused by monsters attacking them. The king was impressed with his idea for solving the chronic monster issue, as well as the task of developing the magical item he had already commissioned, and instructed Sylphid to begin mass-producing low-cost magical stones and distributing them to neighboring villages. Denisuk expresses his gratitude for Sylphid's help and finds her telling him that she is the one who feels grateful to him because she was able to solve an obstacle in her research thanks to him, and also remembered the purpose of her research again. And before she left, she gave him a special magical device equipped with fire magic for combat, and told him that she had improved it as much as she could. Denisuk was surprised that she was able to make it while researching low-cost stones and felt confident in having such a powerful weapon. When he returned to his room, Olmandra pushed the door open and started scolding him for not telling her that he was researching with Sylphid and causing her to misunderstand things, and while she was scolding him, Denisuk passed out from exhaustion. One day, Olmandra was drunk at a bar and started talking to a girl she found sitting next to her. When the girl called her annoying, she got angry and started complaining, which turned out to be Genome. Denisuk notices that she is trading in the stock market and is wearing a valuable watch. Denisuk decides to change his job status in this world and look for problems himself and solve them instead of taking orders from the Demon King all the time. The next day, Denisuk went to the market with Olmandra and found the place lively, while Olmandra remembered yesterday when she was talking to Olulu about his invitation to accompany him to the market and wondered if it was a date. She thought of wearing something sexy to attract his attention, but Olulu told her that he might be embarrassed to see her and suggested she wear something elegant with a decorative theme. When he admired her appearance in a dress, she was overjoyed and felt that Olulu was right. She was surprised when he told her that they had come to research the market together, which made her feel disappointed that he didn't mean to go on a date with her. He added that he wanted to gather information by hearing the public's opinions and assess the situation himself to see what the demon army needed to do to become better. When he started talking to people, one of the merchants marveled at his appearance as a human, wearing a suit and tie, and that he had become one of the elite within the Demon King's army, while Denisuk realized that merchants are always interested in appearances and rumors to promote their goods, according to her. Then the merchant wanted to take advantage of the presence of two of the generals to show them his unique merchandise, and they were surprised to see cups and plates made of pure gold, and he showed them 2 special cups and told them that he would give them a discount if they bought both of them. Olmandra felt that they looked like wedding glasses and was shocked when Denisuk agreed to buy them. She imagined that he would confess his love to her while they drank something together, while Denisuk wanted to take the glasses in exchange for the answer to a certain question. Denisuk told Olmandra that it was time to leave so they could continue their search. After some time, he sat down to review the results of his research and realized that the joining of the bulls and ogres had led to a flourishing cultural exchange at the individual level, but it had negatively affected the availability of food for everyone in the city, causing prices to rise. Almendra told him that she had forced the wheat merchant to lower the price when she went to buy some wheat and realized that the food merchants were not making any profit. Denosuk thought that the issue lay in the pricing of goods and thought that they should come up with a solution without jeopardizing the stability of the city. He then asked Almendra if there was anything she wanted to do after they finished their research, as they still had plenty of time. She was excited to start their own date, but was soon interrupted by Genome. When he asked her why she had come, she told him that she'd practiced a ritual for her race where she gave gifts to those she cared about. Denosuk wanted to know the details, and the couple told him that they had been running a store selling a food called chumuzu for years, but sales began to gradually decline year after year, and while they were busy thinking of a solution, a prominent merchant named Budagarian appeared in front of them, who placed a large order from them to make as much profit as possible from chumuzu due to the high price of wheat. They were happy at first and spent the whole night making chumuzu, but were surprised when he wanted to pull out of the deal in the morning after learning that the chumuzu spoiled after just one day, leaving them in trouble and possibly having to close the store. Denosuk decides to use the information he gathered at the market to help the shop owners. After eating a piece, he asks them to leave it to him, then analyzes the situation and finds that they have to sell 300 servings of chumuzu before it spoils by the end of the day. He then added that the shimozu is very similar to a food called mochi in his world, and decided to use the similarity to their advantage and combine the shimozu with other foods and sell it through them. He then asked if there was anything else they were good at besides shimozu. The merchant told him that it was an old food and most of their customers were elderly, so Denosuk decided to help them come up with other uses for the food, while Almendra went to certain stores and tried to convince them to cooperate with them. Denosuk then starts walking around the market beating drums and promoting the Genome's Roya Day, telling everyone a fictitious story about shimozu inspired by the shop owner's story. Denosuk succeeded in convincing many of them to buy chumuzu on this day, especially and share it with their loved ones to make their wishes come true according to the legends of Roya Day. And when customers went to the store, they were surprised when they saw the multicolored rainbow-like chumuzu and were excited to buy large quantities of them. Almendra was surprised to see that most of the store's customers were young people. Denosuk told her that he used the repositioning marketing strategy of repositioning a product whose sales had declined over time and targeting a new segment of consumers. Almendra realized why he had been doing research all day and that he had succeeded in using the information he had gathered to save the couple's store and help them continue to sell their favorite meal. Denosuk told her that chumuzu could become the most popular commodity in the market overnight, and then felt triumphant about the success of his plan and predicted that they would open a chain of restaurants in other countries. In the evening, the couple expressed their gratitude and said they couldn't believe they had sold out before the end of the day thanks to them. Denosuk told them that they wouldn't have been able to sell so much without their hard work and Genome's help. Almendra was surprised when he mentioned that she left quickly and didn't help them, and he told her that most of the customers who came to buy chumuzu were excited about the idea after hearing it from Genome, and that she indirectly brought many customers to them. As Almendra frowned at the fact that she had helped them, Denosuk told her that helping the couple's store today had made many people change their views on demons, so she tried to hide her happiness and pretended to be indifferent. The couple then presented them with a plate of rainbow-shaped chumuzu as a thank you and asked them to eat it together. Almendra was surprised and remembered that the couple in the novel had gotten their wish when they ate it together and became together forever. Then she was shocked when Denosuk gave her one of the glasses he had bought earlier as a thank you for helping him throughout the day, which made her think that he was indirectly declaring his feelings for her, and she began to imagine their wedding ceremony as they drank from the glasses together with everyone celebrating them, which made her feel happy. Then she asked him what he wished for before eating the shimozu. Almendra got angry and scolded him for constantly thinking about work. At the end of the day, Denosuk went to meet the Demon King and told him what happened throughout the day. He then told him that he had heard about a certain country known as the Gold Country and suggested that they trade with this country to expand their influence in the future because it has the largest gold mines in the world and could help solve their food shortage. The Demon King thought about trading with the Gold Country for the magical stones that they had just started making and thought it was a good deal. Denosuk objected and told him that it was a rare item that no one else had, but the king told him that there was no more talented researcher than Sylphid who would be able to make many different items, and that he did not care if their technology was stolen as long as he had the staff to innovate all the time. Denosuk realizes that their country has a lot of talent, even though it is still small. Then he is surprised when the king warns him about the king of the Golden State called Rampage, and tells him that he is a formidable opponent in terms of negotiation. A few months later, Denosuk decided it was time to go on his first business trip as one of the elite generals outside the country, and aimed to go to the Kingdom of Gold to make a deal with them. And before he left, Almendra was worried about the idea of going there alone. He told her that everything would be fine and that he would have to go alone. She warned him that King Rampage is grumpy and smart and could get into trouble if he handled him wrong. Denosuk was shocked when she told him the story of the merchant who tried to sell him fake products and ended up being fed to the crocodiles. After that, Denosuk left the country on his way to the Kingdom of Gold. After arriving, he was surprised that the country was surprisingly vibrant and confirmed that he had chosen it to be of commercial benefit to them and thought that gold was a basic value in business transactions, even in a world like this. Then he decided that the negotiations could not fail today and he would do his best to convince the king to supply them with the gold they needed in the long run. Then he went to Rampage's palace and sat waiting for him for some time until the king appeared and sat in front of him without saying a word. Denosuk began to speak and told him that he was one of the elite generals of the demon army, and before he told him his name, he was surprised that he already knew him and knew his job specialization within the army and what he had been doing since he joined the army. Then he was shocked to find him angry that he had not come to greet him since he took his position as a general. Denosuk felt that he was in trouble because things were taking a bad turn, so he had to kneel in front of him and apologized for what he had done unintentionally, and he felt that the king had gained an advantage over him because of his aura and position. And when Rampage asked him why he came, he told him that he had a generous offer for him. Denosuk apologized to Rampage for his rudeness and showed him a set of silver dishes, which infuriated Rampage, who used his power to destroy them in front of his eyes, and considered him a mockery for bringing silver to the king of the gold country. So Denosuk apologized to him for his rudeness and then took out the magic stone. Rampage thought it was just a low-quality magic stone, but Denosuk told him that it was a valuable product with the ability to drive away magical monsters that no other country has, and asked him if there was anything stopping the people of his country from mining for gold. The king told him that a monster called a rock golem was causing trouble for the miners, and Denosuk told him that they would be able to force it to flee by using his special magic stone. Rampage thought it might be a good idea to help reduce the cost of hiring professional guards to deal with the golem, so Denosuk suggested that he try a sample, and if he liked it, he would sell him a good amount. Rampage agreed to his suggestion and told him that he would try the stone to make sure he was right. Denosuk was shocked when he realized that he was going to make him try it himself against a monster and found Rampage pulling a huge crocodile out of his cage. Denosuk felt that his life was at stake as the crocodile approached him, but he held himself together and used the stone on it, and when it made that annoying ringing noise, it forced the crocodile to retreat, which made Rampage confirm the truth of his claim. Then Denosuk was surprised when the crocodile jumped towards the king without warning, and when he was about to use his magic, he found that Rampage had stunned him until he was easily reduced to ashes. Then he admired him and told him that he had the determination to stand before him despite being a commoner, in addition to his talent for negotiation and loyalty to those with whom he worked. Rampage decided to buy the magic stones from him, and Denosuk felt a sense of triumph, but his feeling quickly turned into amazement when he saw the gold bars that Rampage would give him in exchange for the stones and thought that each of them was worth 700,000. He tells Rampage that his country can produce 200 stones in a month, but he tells him to have them ready in a week and gives him tons of gold bars in return, telling him that he will not accept anything other than the stones. When Denosuk returned to the demon army, when he told Sylphid, she said it was impossible to produce that many stones in such a short time, and the local demand for stones was increasing, and scolded him for accepting Rampage's offer without knowing the workings of his country. Denosuk remembered that he had been in a similar situation in his world, where those who don't know the hard work and those who don't realize the difficulty of making decisions. And when Sylphid asked him what he was going to do, he decided to prioritize the areas that are heavily attacked by monsters and exploit the fact that a good amount of stones have already been distributed throughout the country. Sylphid realized that he knew about the production lines even though he was just a salesman, and when he asked her if she was trying to slack off, she was furious and had to agree to produce 200 stones in a week. Then, to their surprise, an envoy from the Kingdom of Gold came to them to tell them the king's message and said that the results of the magic stones had exceeded his expectations and that he wanted 100 more sets by next week. Denosuk sat in his office, exhausted, and Alulu was impressed that he was able to make a deal to export 300 magic stones in a week. He told her that the financial strength of the Gold Kingdom exceeded his expectations, and she was surprised when he told her that the total amount of money they would receive was 150 million. When she asked him how he managed to get such a deal, he told her that he used a trick in psychology called the anchoring effect, which is the use of the fact that people make decisions based on the first piece of information they get, and used it to convince him of the importance of their country's magical stones. Although he was confident in his ability to convince Rampage of the value of the stones, he did not expect to receive so many orders. While he was speaking, the kingdom's envoy burst into his office and asked him to add another 100 stones to the order, bringing the total to 400 magical stones. Denosuk and Alulu had to go tell Sylphid, and although he expected her reaction, she ordered an increase in production lines by recruiting more workers, and over time they succeeded in processing 200 sets. Denosuk then sat down to think about sales and expected that the demand for the magic stone would decrease after the supply, and realized that a good product is consumed and bought again. So he decided to go to the bar to clear his mind, and and think more deeply. The next day, Denosuk was shocked when Sylphid told him that all orders were cancelled by Rampage. He went to speak to the kingdom's envoy directly and found her apologizing to him and telling him that the king had decided not to buy the stones from them and to buy them elsewhere. Denosuk was surprised that there was a product similar to the unique magical stone, and when he told the workers what happened, they were upset because they had ordered a large amount of raw materials to make more stones. This hindrance affected the production of weapons and materials within the city and reduced its budget to the point that some merchants were considering moving their business to another country, while Denosuk wondered if he had inadvertently offended Rampage. Then he began to think about the impact on the town's economy and the strength of the army, and began to imagine everyone blaming him and demanding his demotion, so he decided to face it and go to see the Demon King himself. After that, he told the Demon King that everything that happened was due to his poor judgment, as he had previously known that Rampage was temperamental and selfish, and did not take these qualities into account when making the deal, and he drew his attention to the success of the negotiations by receiving a large order, and admitted that he took full responsibility and would accept any punishment. The Demon King told him that no one person can do everything, no matter how well planned, and they cannot manipulate fate, but what is important to him now is what he will do after the failure, which is to learn from his mistakes, and then told him not to be ashamed of his failure again. After that, Denosuk decided to go apologize to the army leaders, and when he ran into Genome on his way, he apologized to her for causing trouble for the entire army because they received heavy losses after the deal failed, but she didn't pay attention to it and left quietly without blaming him. He decided to go to apologize to Sylphid, but he found her engrossed in reading a book of spells and asked him to leave for the time being. She didn't seem upset about the failure he had caused, and while he was thinking about who else he could contact, he was surprised that he was kidnapped by an unknown person who tied him up and felt that one of the affected people intended to take revenge on him. After a while, Denosuk managed to free himself and didn't hesitate to kneel in front of the person who kidnapped him to apologize, but he was surprised to smell a delicious smell and see a piece of meat being grilled in front of him. Then Omandra appeared out of nowhere to share dinner with him and told him that she tried to prepare the food the same way he did, but had difficulty with it. He felt grateful to her for trying to cheer him up, while Omandra blushed and told him that she just owed him. As she tried to approach him, she was furious when Olulu joined them and brought some fruit with him. She soon realized that she had ruined the romance, but the three of them ended up eating dinner together. Afterward, Omandra and Olulu fell asleep and Denosuk put a blanket over them and felt happy to have gained such great business friends like Sylphid and Genome, then remembered the Demon King's words to him and decided to have confidence and make up for his failure in another deal. On the other hand, the merchant who caused Denosuk's deal to fail turned out to be the greedy Budagarian after he counterfeited the magic stone and sold it at half price to Rampage. Denosuk decided to get his hands on the main issue to prevent that failure from happening again. He started thinking about whether a product similar to their magic stone could be made in less than a month and found that it was almost impossible even with a good engineer. Then he went to the tavern to clear his mind and found Sylphid entering the tavern carrying a guitar, and he was surprised that she could play, and he felt her melodies penetrate his heart, and suddenly the idea came to him that someone stole their magic stones by reselling the stones that they distribute to neighboring countries and villages. The next day, Olmandra entered his office to tell him that the magic stones that had been distributed recently had become ineffective on monsters and did not have the same powerful effect as usual, and Denosuk realized that their industry was in trouble after the defective stones appeared, and they might have to reproduce the same amount of stones again. When he went to check it out for himself, he found that some farmers had suffered heavy losses after monsters attacked their fields, so he approached the land to check the soil and realized that the magic stone didn't exist in the first place. He decided to check the surrounding areas and found that all the stones had been taken from their places, which confirmed his guess that they were being stolen in some way, and asked Olmandra and Olulu to prepare a report for him with the locations and dates of the complaints they had received from around the country about the stones. In the evening, Denosuk and Olmandra went to a village where no complaints had been filed and hid behind a tree to observe the situation. He noticed that thieves were stealing magic stones at night from the fields and confirmed his suspicions. When Denosuk began to interrogate the thieves to find out who was inciting them to steal the stones, one of the thieves attacked him but ended up receiving a resounding kick from Olmandra, and when they realized how strong she was, they preferred to retreat, so Olmandra started to follow them, but Denosuk told her that it was useless. The next day, Budagarian brought more stones to Rampage, who was impressed by his regularity in bringing orders to him without delay, and told him that a merchant's job is to provide the goods that consumers need in any way possible. After leaving the palace, Budagarian felt triumphant about the success of his plan to make the most out of the Gold Kingdom's deal with the demon army after stealing the magic stones and selling them at half price, especially after knowing the advantages of their ease of transportation and selling them at a high price despite the difficulty of imitating or remaking them. One day, on his way to Rampage's palace to give him more stones, he was surprised to find that the king had issued a warrant for his arrest, and when the guards led him to the palace, he found Rampage telling him that the stones he had been supplying him lately were ineffective and breakable. Budagarian felt he was in trouble and thought there was a misunderstanding, but this only made Rampage angrier, who asked him again why he was delivering such garbage. Betrayal thought he had done nothing but steal the stones and sell them, and wondered if someone had caught him in the trap. He was surprised to see Denosuk join them and give him a sharp look as he introduced himself, which made Betrayal very confused that he was standing next to the talented human who became one of the elite generals of the demon army, and did not expect that he was directly involved in the matter. Then he found Denosuk telling Rampage that he deliberately used fake pieces of stone and placed them in the fields to protect the army's new technology from theft and reveal the identity of the thief. Rampage was impressed with his plan and told him that he couldn't distinguish it from the real stone at first. Denosuk told him that thanks to this trick, the theft rate decreased significantly, and then asked Betrayal why he had the fake stones in his possession. Betrayal then realized that this was all planned by him and that he had become completely subordinate to him and could not evade the charge of theft in front of the king. So he decided to resort to a twisted method of trying to flatter the king in order not to harm him and try to convince him that he did not intend to deceive him in any way. Betrayal's only thought at that moment was to survive this miserable situation and then he could start over. But he was shocked by Rampage's death sentence, and soon a huge crocodile fell from above after Rampage surrounded him with thunderous swords. Betrayal tried to escape by any means due to his survival instincts, but the crocodile grabbed his clothes and tore part of them. And when it started to eat him, Denosuk intervened and blocked the crocodile with his magical attacks. Rampage was furious at Denosuk for daring to interfere in his decisions, and told him that this is interfering in the affairs of another country, and that he should be prepared for the consequences. So he tried to justify it by saying that he interfered with the crocodile and wanted to share his opinion about it. Rampage uses his aura as a two-headed dragon and tells him to share his thoughts if he is willing to sacrifice himself for Betrayal. Denosuk tells him that it is not a sacrifice, but that he wants to share his thoughts for Betrayal, as his kingdom will collapse if he loses a merchant of Betrayal's caliber. Rampage could not comprehend the idea that an entire country would perish because of one person, and Rampage saw that he had no particular advantage over the rest of the world's merchants. So Denosuk told him that he would lose his only source of funding with orange powder, which is used to extract the finest gold from its raw material due to the lack of mining. Then he added that this powder is heavily dependent on imports from the country of Toki, and currently Toki is restricting the export of the powder outside the country due to the shortage of the amount the country needs, and this caused a civil war inside Toki, and the only person allowed to trade there is Betrayal. Betrayal is surprised that Denosuk knows so much about him. Denosuk tells him that he researched him when he considered producing gold domestically instead of making a deal with Rampage, but found it impossible in the end. He then turned to Rampage and told him that many countries are indebted to Betrayal due to his reputation for active trade in conflict zones and supplying supplies to affected countries, which gives him influence in various countries, which means that his death would be a great loss to the Kingdom of Gold. Rampage was curious about his interest in his country and Betrayal, even though he has no relation to them, and the kingdom is a direct competitor to the demon army. Denosuk was puzzled and told him that he did not understand his question, as he believes that one is supposed to help those who need it as long as he is able. The king burst out laughing as he did not consider profit and loss and relied on his human instinct to help others. Then he soon fell asleep and decided to leave them and go to sleep in his room without waiting for the response. Denosuk was relieved that he and Betrayal had escaped the king's wrath, while Betrayal was surprised that he managed to make Rampage laugh so much that he forgot his anger and suspected that Denosuk was after something behind his suspicious behavior. Denosuk asks to let him lean on him, as his strength is failing, so he helps him out of the palace. On their way, Betrayal meets his fellow thieves, who are relieved that he's still alive. Olulu then joined Denosuk and told him that he was the one who ordered her to bring everyone here. Denosuk told him that he had heard of him before, so he investigated him and learned that he collected war orphans, adopted them, and then used them in his shady business. The girls interrupted him and told him that they had chosen to work with him of their own free will, while Betrayal was stunned that despite knowing everything about him, he decided to risk his life and stand up to the king for him, and felt grateful to him for reuniting him with his children. Then Denosuk decided to cooperate with him to help him sell magic stones through him, which made Betrayal feel ashamed because he had tried to deceive him before, and that he chose to cooperate with him. So Denosuk told him that he wanted to help him sell stones in distant areas. Betrayal decided to change his business style for the sake of his children, and to stop being greedy, and vowed to make sure that this trade is successful, and Denosuk succeeded in concluding an agreement with him. And before he left, Betrayal told him something he heard from a friendly merchant, that there are some suspicious activities taking place in the Demon King's Guild. A few days later, the Demon King meets with Denosuk and Olmantra to discuss the recent increase in the price of wheat. Denosuk tells him that the amount of wheat being distributed in the market has decreased, and when it is available in stores, it is at prices that not everyone can afford. The Demon King decides to assign him to solve this issue. He remembers what Betrayal told him about the King's Guild, and is surprised that Olmantra realizes it too after she told him about the guild leader's intention to become super rich, and decides to teach teach them a lesson. The Demon King decides to send her north for something while Denosuk is on his way to the guild to meet the leader there and is surprised to see Sylphid dressed differently than usual and tells him her intention to accompany him to the guild as a clan of elves currently controls the positions within the guild and her presence will make it easier for him to communicate with them. Denosuk realizes why she is wearing this kind of clothes. Then they head to the guild and end up in the waiting room for 4 hours until the guild leader himself comes out to meet them and coldly tells them that he almost forgot them and introduces himself as Viper. Sylphid is furious that he doesn't feel remorse for making them wait 4 hours, and Denosuk is surprised by her arrogant attitude towards him. But it turns out that she is Viper's older sister, and that this is the first time they have met in years. Sylphid continued to insult him, so he asked her if she had come all this way just to complain. She replied that she had come with Denosuk, who wanted to meet him, and he was confused to enter the middle of their argument, then told Viper that he had come to make a deal about the wheat. Denosuk was shocked when Denosuk ordered him to grovel in exchange for agreeing to sell him the wheat. Sylphid was furious with her brother, while Denosuk did not hesitate to carry out his orders. Viper burst out laughing and told Denosuk that he was joking and didn't mind making a deal with him. Then he set the price per bag at around 50,000, and when Denosuk was surprised by the price, Viper told him that he had the right to refuse, and before returning to his office, he advised him not to be too lenient with others to avoid being ridiculed. After they leave the guild, Sylphid wants to burn it to the ground and turn Viper into ashes, but Denosuk isn't upset at all, which makes her even angrier, and she tells him that he had to bow down in front of him to no avail. He told her that he doesn't mind, and that his lowered head doesn't lower his pride because he is still one of the elite generals. Then he expressed his surprise that there is a blood connection between her and Viper, and she told him that she had already mentioned that she was born to an elf family of merchants, and because it is difficult for her kind to reproduce to increase their offspring, her family has resorted to reproducing from hominids over the generations. Then she added that Viper is half a snake, which makes him have an insatiable desire for fame and great wealth, which is unusual for elves like her, and Viper's greed and his associates caused them to burn the elf village to the ground and sold those who survived the fire to slave traders, which is the reason for her decision to leave home and become independent. Denosuk realizes how strained their relationship is and asks her not to get into any arguments with her fellow Vipers before he has a chance to talk to them. On their way back, a young girl catches up to them and begs them to save her from the Viper family, telling them that her name is Naya and that she is a forced laborer for the syndicate. She then added that she wanted to tell Denosuk about the family's evil deeds as one of the generals, so he decided to help her after realizing that she was just a poor girl, and took her with him to buy her some new clothes. Naya was happy when he bought her a new dress and expressed her gratitude to him. When he asked her about the Viper and Sylphid family, she told him that she wanted to escape from this life, so he asked her to tell them her whole story. Denosuk then learns that Naya was separated from her parents and ended up working for the guild leader for a small wage. She tells him that there are many people like her in the guild, and that she knows that a disaster is coming soon that will make them unable to buy food, according to Viper. Denosuk is surprised by the fact that he is deliberately spreading fear among the people in order to raise the price of goods as he pleases, and Naya tells him that he has been buying more wheat lately in order to sell it in small quantities and maximize his return. He wondered if anyone was opposing his policies within the guild, and Naya told him that most of the knights had already been bribed. He decided not to tolerate an organization that harmed people and to free the guild from the control of Viper and his predecessors. While Sylphid thought that they would take advantage of the opportunity and assassinate him in the dark, he felt confused and told her that he wanted to face the matter fairly. The next day, Denosuk went with Sylphid and Naya to the guild and decided to make an emergency inspection of what was going on inside. He decided to investigate if there were any irregularities or illegal operations going on inside the guild, and if he found any loopholes, he would use the justice of the law to make things right. Viper is confused as Denosuk has put him in an awkward position and cannot refuse the inspection while Denosuk aims to find the amount of wheat he is monopolizing and check the record of business transactions. Viper feigns indifference and lets him do as he pleases and returns to his office. They decide to go to the warehouse to check the goods. Denosuk expects it to be over quickly, but is shocked to find the warehouse completely empty. Then he noticed that there were skid marks on the floor, which means that they had moved the stored wheat before they arrived. When he found Viper standing behind him with his followers, he was surprised that all of them were there so early in the day and seemed so sure of themselves. When he asked him about the stored wheat, he confidently replied that he had found a buyer and sold the whole lot to him, then sneered that everything Denosuk had planned had been in vain in the end, making him feel defeated in front of him. In the evening, Denosuk returned to his office, pondering over the failed emergency inspection. He guessed that there was something he hadn't realized yet and wondered if they had taken precautions in advance for such circumstances. Sylphid guessed that it was probably her family who made the wheat deal and not the guild as an organization, which made sense since the transaction log didn't contain anything suspicious. But the question remained as to how they managed to hide so much wheat. Sylphid wondered how the news of the emergency inspection had reached them despite their secrecy. Viper and his followers seemed ready for their arrival, and Denosuk was shocked by the fact that there was a traitor in their midst. Viper, on the other hand, was immediately amused by the frustrated expressions on Denosuk and Sylphid's faces. It turns out that Naya has been working for Viper the whole time and deceiving Denosuk. When she asked Viper where the wheat was stored, he was furious that she was asking him questions and decided to tell her that he put it on a caravan traveling through the bordered areas and that the cargo would return in 3 days. Then Naya was shocked to find him indirectly threatening to use her parents and telling her to do her best for them. The next day, Naya was wandering the streets, thinking about how she ended up like this, as she was born into the lowest class of the Lord Paint family and lived happily with her parents until Viper came and forcibly took her to work for him. Although she understood her parents' helplessness in front of him, she wanted them to stop him, and since then, she had been treated harshly by him, as he beat her every day because she reminded him of his sister, as if he wanted to take revenge on her for that reason. She gathered enough information about Sylphid and did her best not to become like her so that Viper would stop beating her, but he continued to beat her until he thought of making her a spy within the demon army for him and incited her to pretend to Denosuk to be weak to take advantage of his naivety. Meanwhile, Denosuk was wandering around and noticed the constant gloom on people's faces due to the famine, which made him feel angry. He remembered when he was at the tavern, and while eating, he overheard some people talking at the next table and complaining about how the leaders considered them to be mere tools to be discarded when their need was over. The three of them vowed to rise to the top together and change the company's policy, which made Denosuk feel inspired. His thoughts were interrupted by Omantra's voice, and he realized that she had returned from the north and was surprised when she told him that she had a dragon and a wyvern to give as a souvenir to the Demon King, and that she had gotten rid of 30 dragons in the north. While Omantra was showing off her strength in front of the dragons, Denosuk had the brilliant idea to use the wyvern dragons to provide food for the citizens, so he went to the carriage and decided to start solving the issue in his own way. Naya goes to meet Denosuk in his office and tells him that she would like to help him by doing something. He decides to make a plan and tells her that after the emergency inspection fails, he will carry out a new mission called Dragon Strike. Olulu and Omantra join them, and Naya is quickly overwhelmed by her deadly aura. Denosuk explained to Naya that they had prepared a large amount of smoked wyvern meat and distributed it to various places to solve the food shortage, which is called Dragon Strike. Naya tries to pretend to be excited and wants to help them. When she asks how it will be distributed, Denosuk is about to tell her, but Sylphid approaches and tells him to stop. Naya immediately feels suspicious of her, but she can't back down. In the evening, Naya snuck into his office and continued to search for any information of value. When she came out, she was surprised to find Sylphid waiting for her outside to start berating her after she was caught. Naya was furious and told her that everything was her fault, then threw a gas grenade to escape. After she managed to evade it, she thought that someone like Sylphid would never understand her suffering since she had given up her home of her own free will. She then went back to Viper and told him about the Dragon Strike. He thought it sounded annoying, even though it was impossible to replace wheat with meat. When he asked her where they would start distributing the meat, she decided to give him a fake answer and told him they would prioritize the suburbs and then the center of the city. However, Viper soon realized her intention to deceive him and told her that starting from the city center was the best option due to the cost of transportation. She tried to accuse Denosuk of trying to deceive them, but he trusted his naivety and would not commit such foolishness. Then he thought that he could expect to lose his patience and start selling wheat cheaply, trusting that the wagons would arrive tomorrow and that people would buy it at any price after they were starving, making the smoked meat useless. Naya felt like she was drowning after realizing that her attempt to sabotage his plans was useless, while Viper decided to start torturing her again now that her role as a spy was over. On the other side, Sylphid told Denosuk what happened and suggested that he stop the distribution plan. He told her that he knew from the beginning that Naya was a spy for Viper, as he noticed a small wound on her chest when he first saw her, and his suspicions were confirmed when he went to buy clothes for her and she chose a dress that did not reveal her body despite being a demon, which made him assume that she had many wounds. He remembered that in his previous job, he had 3 close colleagues with whom he did his best to change company policy, and he saw the same look he saw in Naya's eyes that expressed a lack of passion, despair, and a desire to escape by any means. Sylphid realized that this was why he had shown her mercy after being exposed, while Denosuk thought he had to come up with a plan B now that all their cards were in Viper's hands, and Viper couldn't wait to see the despair and frustration on his sister's face when his plan succeeded tomorrow. The next day, one of his followers burst into his room to wake him up, and when he told him that the wheat wagons were late, he realized that he would have to wait a little longer, but he was soon shocked that the demon army would start distributing the smoked meat earlier than they had planned. His subordinate told him that they would be distributing wheat instead of meat. In the meantime, the demon army had started distributing wheat to the public in the form of supplies, and as Viper rushed out of the room, wondering how the demons had so much wheat, he came across Sylphid standing in front of him. She tells him that she wanted to update him on the current situation since he's indifferent to what's going on outside, and tells him that they imported a large amount of wheat through a merchant with close ties to Denosuk from a neighboring country and transported it through a group of semi-humans. Viper thought the information about the smoked meat was fake, but Sylphid told him that they gave it to the neighboring country in exchange for it being their favorite dish, and that at this rate they had succeeded in executing the Dragon Strike plan. Viper couldn't believe believe that they could get him so easily and thought that she might be tricking him into believing that Denosuk was naive and that it was impossible to import such a large amount in such a short time. So she told him that they had been importing it since the day he asked to meet them. Viper was perplexed and wondered why he wanted to buy from him when he had already made a deal. She replied that he just wanted to provide food to the citizens as soon as possible and didn't want people to have to wait any longer. Anchored by the fact that he was defeated by Denosuk and his plan was now worthless, Sylphid likened him to a puppet that Denosuk had been controlling all along and told him that it was time to declare bankruptcy after his plan failed. Viper burst out laughing and told her that they hadn't gotten to him enough and then ran away from her. Just as she was about to follow him, two ninjas suddenly appeared in front of her and started attacking her, so Sylphid had to use the sword she made for Denosuk to fight them off. Sylphid succeeded in crushing them effortlessly while Viper was furious and thinking about his next move. He decided to wait until the situation stabilized and then make another plan, but when he came out of his palace, he was surprised to find Denosuk waiting for him with a large group of merchants. Then Denosuk told him that the majority of the merchants approved the decision to remove him, which means that he is no longer the leader of the guild and they will vote for someone else, and all his family members will be exiled. And when he gave him the result of the vote, he threw it away and told him that he will not accept this farce. He then started yelling at the merchants, wanting to know who voted against him, and while he was threatening them, Denosuk told him that everyone voted to remove him despite knowing the risks, thanks to Nea, who told them everything about him. It turns out that Denosuk had already freed her and decided to have her tell the merchants everything so that they would know the truth about Viper and his evil deeds. After they all saw the bruises and wounds that Viper had caused, they realized that he was just a ruthless sadist and revolted against him. Viper told him that merchants only act in their own interests. He threatened Nea that he would do great harm to her parents. She screamed at him that she would no longer be dependent on him and would be able to protect her parents. Denosuk then told him that he was no longer allowed to trade in this country. Viper realizes that there is no way to resist now that he has been completely exposed to everyone, so he resorts to the last trick of gaining sympathy by begging Denosuk, thinking that he can use his naivety to pardon him. Denosuk decides to arrest him as one of the generals of the demon army, and Viper decides to use his full strength against him and not let him touch him. But before he can pounce on him, Sylphid intervenes and knocks him down with a single sword strike. He ended up being dragged into the detention carriage, and before he left, he told Denosuk that he had not yet won, as disaster would befall the country very soon. After he left, Nea apologized to him for betraying his trust, so he decided to take her with him to the Demon King's castle. Nea thought that she would be punished for being a spy, but she was surprised that she was appointed as a secretary to Denosuk and told her that she would atone for her mistake by working for him. Then he told her that her father helped them a lot by delaying the arrival of the guild's wheat, as he was in charge of the carriage that went off the road and caused the delay in the arrival of the shipment. Then he added that her father deliberately betrayed the Viper family for her and in return asked him to take her into their custody. Nea felt grateful and started crying. Then Olulu joined them and Denosuk introduced her, and Naya got excited and told her that she was looking forward to working with her. At that time, Denosuk remembered being at the bar one day, and the bar owner, noticing that he seemed to be in a good mood, told him that it was great to see someone's eyes light up after his 3 colleagues quit and started working on their own project. His thoughts were interrupted by Nea's voice telling him that the Demon King had summoned him urgently, while the king was thinking about the disaster that would soon befall the country and no one would be able to stop it. The next day, Denosuk was on his way north with Nea and Omandra, who told him that a large army of dragons had begun to invade small towns and villages and increasingly attack their inhabitants, and that the Demon King had declared that this was the catastrophe that would befall the entire country. Denosuk remembered what Viper had said at the time of his arrest and wondered if making food from wyvern meat was the reason for their invasion. Omandra replied that it was just a natural disaster like storms and volcanoes, but in the form of ravenous beasts, and that each of the 4 generals had been given special assignments where they would confront the dragons and prevent them from overrunning the town, while Sylphid would go off to look for countermeasures. Afterward, they arrived at Daemon Fort, the demon army's largest fortress, to prepare for the war against the dragons as soon as they arrived, and Omandra told him that this fort is the defense against wyvern attacks. After that, they met Genom, who praised his skill in solving the guild case and told her that everyone was calling him a savior and expected him to do a lot about the current disaster. He told her that he was not a hero, and Omandra agreed with him, but she thought he was just a fragile and weak person who would be finished in one fell swoop. Then an argument broke out between them out of nowhere until they were interrupted by the sound of the alarm bell that announced the arrival of the dragon army, and all the soldiers came out to greet them with a huge number of magical and physical attacks. And although everyone belonged to one army, there was a division between demons and half-humans. Omandra intervened and managed to take out some of the dragons near the fortress, and when Denosuk and the others were about to be attacked from behind, Genom saved them and easily took care of the dragons, then ordered her soldiers to target the dragon's eyes and avoid close combat. The army began to use more than one technique at a time to deal with the dragons, as the demons resorted to luring the dragons and then hitting them with close-range magic attacks. Over time, they succeeded in stopping the dragons, humans, but quite a few of the soldiers were injured. Denosuk was distributing food to the soldiers, and when he went to Genome, he found her telling him that he was useless when it came to fighting. So he told her that he was not a fighter, but could help with other things. She wanted to know his honest opinion about the fortress, and he replied that he expects it to fall within days at the latest if the situation continues at the same rate, as their fall will be due to the internal division of the army and their conflicting strategies in addition to the radical difference between them and everything. He then added that the negative feelings that have accumulated over the years due to the historical enmity between the two factions cannot be easily overcome, making it almost impossible for them to win the Battle of the Dragons. Genome admits that he's right and asks if there's anything they can do to solve the issue. He asks her to have him look at the map of the fortress first, and when he notices an empty field behind the fortress, she tells him that it's an abandoned village. So he comes up with a plan to solve all of the army's problems and decides to go to the village. When they get there, he finds that there are still many buildings that can be used to separate the demons from the humans and make them live in separate buildings. Genome thought it was a good solution to resolve the conflict between the two factions and realized that they would be able to prevent the disaster if his plan was implemented. He told her that the hardest part would be convincing the demons and half-humans to stay in the village together. She told him that there was no way the demons would listen to her, and when Denosuk thought that the split in the army's leadership was creating a gap between them, she told him to convince the two factions because he was different and had a persuasive style. The next day, Denosuk appeared in front of everyone wearing a strange coat that made him look like a leader, and everyone was surprised to see him in this appearance. And as soon as he raised his hand, everyone got excited and raised their hands high. But it was actually an unintentional cheer, and Denosuk realized that he had put himself in trouble when he agreed to lead the soldiers because of Genome's persuasive style. Then he decided to play his role to the fullest in order to achieve victory, and began to address the soldiers in a commanding manner, telling them that the fortress was in a critical situation and that they all had to work together to prevent the coming disaster by the cooperation of both demons and half-humans. Denosuk decides to reconfigure the soldiers so that the two races become the sword and shield to protect the country, and decides that this will be the name of the mission. The soldiers continue to cheer enthusiastically as Denosuk remembers when he was in the tavern singing his favorite song. After he finishes, he decides to enjoy listening to nostalgic songs and suddenly finds the tavern owner giving him free new stones to keep singing. The next day, a new wave of dragons arrived at the fortress, and Denosuk devised a battle plan. The half-humans would distract the dragons with their attacks, while the demons would wait for them in the abandoned village to finish them off as soon as they approached the fortress. The plan succeeded in creating a balance within the demon army and managed to take out all the dragons that tried to penetrate the fortress without incurring losses, and everyone realized how well Denosuk commanded the army and that he succeeded in creating harmony between the two races. In the evening, Olmandra went to bathe in the river and remained amazed at Denosuk's genius in coming up with the brilliant idea of making the abandoned village a base for demons. Olulu told her that this village has many uses, and Olmandra was surprised that he intended to meet with her and Genome to discuss some matters. Denosuk, on the other hand, was discussing with Genome the solution to their inefficient stockpile issue, which is that they will collect all resources at one point and distribute them in proportion to the number of soldiers they have, and they will be able to closely monitor the demons' food consumption. Genome liked his idea and felt attracted to him, but when she tried to approach him, Olmandra appeared like a ghost and told him not to get emotional, just to receive some praise from her, while Denosuk felt that she was angry for some reason. She then told them that she would have to return to the castle to give the Demon King a report on the current situation, and decided to express her gratitude to Denosuk for stabilizing the situation within the army and saving them from defeat, and that his speech was moving. Olulu and Nea join them, and they all sit down to eat together. Denosuk feels that the plan is going well, but there is no time to rest as there is still a strong weakness in his plan. Denosuk ended up spending the whole night writing the report, thinking about why the dragon attacks were concentrated in only one location, and after he researched and analyzed, he found Nea and Olulu telling him about the disaster that had befallen them, as two other fortresses were attacked by dragons at the same time. Denosuk was shocked by the dragon's sudden change in behavior, especially after the soldiers were sent to the kingdom. Nea told him that the dragons had overrun a large part of the country and were now on their way to the Demon King's castle, which would force Olmandra to fight a fierce battle against them alone. Denosuk decides to return as quickly as possible to the castle, but when he arrives, he finds that the battle has already begun between the dragons and Olmandra, who tries to defend the castle with everything she has, but she quickly loses her strength after the dragons got her, and before she loses consciousness, she sees Denosuk heading towards her. Olmandra was taken to her room to receive care, and when Denosuk entered to check on her, Nea told him that she had no serious injuries, but she had used up a lot of her magical energy, and he felt regret that he would not have let her return early if he knew what would happen beforehand. He thanked Olmandra for protecting the castle alone, and decided to act quickly before the dragons attacked them again. When he returned to his office to start working, Olulu told him that the wyverns were staying near the lake according to Sofid's information, and that two villages had been attacked. Denosuk is surprised surprised to learn that one of the villages belongs to ogres, and Olulu says that many of her companions were between life and death during the attack, so he asks her to go home for them and tells her that if she leaves right away, the chances of being attacked are slim. With Olulu and the guards gone, Denosuke was left to work alone, thinking that if he could predict the dragon's movements, they would be able to resist their attacks sufficiently. But the problem was that Olmandra was currently unable to fight. As he worked for long periods of time without taking a break, Denosuke began to get tired, but he decided to keep working until he passed out and dreamed that he was still working at the tavern. Then he noticed that the bar owner was not there this time and was surprised that everything around him disappeared and faded away. Then he felt a violent shaking before the Demon King appeared behind him and started scolding him for losing his self-awareness. Denosuke told him that they were in a critical situation and that he had to make a plan. The king told him that at this rate, he would be risking everyone's lives by making a plan in this state. Then he added that everyone's lives depended on his plans, so he shouldn't let trivial matters distract him from what was most important. Denosuke felt he was right and went to sleep for a while. The next day, Denosuke woke up feeling a little relieved, so he decided to quickly return to his office and started working at a faster pace. Then Jino met him after she returned to the castle and heard what happened to Olmandra and told him that they were short of soldiers and supplies. He confidently told her that he had succeeded in coming up with a decisive plan. Then he went to address the army and told them that they would be able to decide the battle in their favor and announced the start of the last uprising mission. Meanwhile, Jino was thinking about the plan he came up with, as he noticed that the dragons target women, and the reason they attacked two fortresses at the same time is because the female soldiers in their fortress had returned to the castle before the rest of them. Denosuke decided to use the demon women as bait to lure the dragons and then eliminate them all at once, but his idea was met with disapproval and rejection by the demons, as this plan promises an all-out battle. If they fail, they will be annihilated by the wyverns. Jinom thought that everyone's morale is low because of Olmandra's injury, and in this situation, even the best plans will fail because of everyone's fear. And soon everyone was stunned when Denosuke told them that he is not a hero, as they think, as he lacks fighting and does not belong to this world, but is similar to them with different races and cultures. He then went on to say that no hero is going to suddenly appear and turn the tide in their favor, and that they have to work hard to keep their country and their loved ones safe. He succeeded in igniting their hearts with his motivational speech, and when he went backstage, he couldn't hide his anxiety and asked Jinom what they would do if the plan failed. She approached him, hugged him, and told him that her mother used to do the same for her when she was worried. She told him that he was an important part of the Demon King's army, so he shouldn't be discouraged, and told him to rely on his friends, which lifted his spirits. The next day, the army was waiting for the dragons, and as soon as they approached, they began to implement Denosuke's plan. As expected, the dragons broke through the defense lines in pursuit of the demon women, and although they managed to take down a large number of dragons, their growing numbers were too much for them to handle. Genome decided to step in to support the army and Denosuke, realizing that they had entered a fight with no clear end and would have to maintain the formation and attack regularly, decided to contribute even if he was weak, and used his magic stone and managed to bring down 3 dragons at once. After some time, the soldiers managed to get rid of all the dragons and wondered if more were on their way. Suddenly, a giant red dragon appeared from the sky and landed on the ground right in front of them, quickly attacking them and destroying a large part of the fortress. Denosuke was shocked to see such a powerful dragon and that everyone's lives were at stake. He thought about letting the half-humans escape first, but the dragon began to crush him under his hands, and Olmandra appeared out of nowhere to fight back. Olmandra pretended to be at full strength, but in reality, she was shaking with fatigue, and although she did not have the strength to fight against the dragon, she tried to think wisely as Denosuke had taught her, and decided to use her maximum strength to launch a single attack to bring down the dragon. Olmandra succeeded in severing one of the dragon's arms with her attack, but Genome intervened and took the other arm to prevent her from taking all the glory alone. Then Silpha joined them, and with the 4 generals meeting at the same time, they combined their powers to launch a final attack that wiped the dragon out of existence. After the battle was over, Olmandra's strength faded and Denosuke held her in his arms. When Genome told him to ring the victory bell, he wondered if the giant dragon was really dead. Soon, everyone felt a violent earthquake hitting the castle, and then a creature 3 times larger than the giant dragon appeared and began to slowly move towards the castle. Denosuke realized that this was the true meaning of the disaster, and that they had no chance of stopping it. Then the Demon King appeared and told them that he would take care of it this time after the generals had done their duty. Then he met the disaster's thunderous attack with a huge protective barrier and successfully blocked the attack, then used his supernatural magic to project a huge mass of energy towards the disaster and forced it to submit before him after causing massive damage to the surrounding area. And then Denosuke realized how powerful the king was after he succeeded in destroying the disaster and restoring it to its original state. Then the dragon army retreated, and the king ordered Denosuke to declare their victory as the commander of the army, and everyone celebrated their victory and the protection of the castle from invasion. And while everyone was celebrating, Genome approached him and offered him to join her half-human squad. Olmandra intervenes and prevents her from getting it, then scolds him for being nice to everyone. everyone. After the demon army's victory in their battle against the Cataclysm, the Demon King meets with them and honors the 4 generals with rare magical stones, then tells Denosuk that there is something he would like to discuss with him after the honors are over. After they were alone, the king wanted to ask Denosuk who the king was. Denosuk was shocked when the Demon King asked him to become the new king of the country. Denosuk refused hysterically, as he could not comprehend becoming the king of the country by order of the Demon King himself. But the king told him that he had the talent to rule and had already dedicated himself to serving the country and had succeeded in achieving unprecedented achievements. Then he added that he now sees him as a talented slave who lacks self-confidence and does not want him to go along with those around him by simply carrying out the tasks assigned to him. Then he asked him what he thinks is holding him back from becoming king, and Denosuk fell silent and asked him to give him some time to think. After that, Denosuk returned to his office and thought about what the king had said to him and remembered when he was in his previous job and was treated pathetically, that he was young and ignorant of his own self-worth, and his suggestions were always rejected and ridiculed by his boss, which destroyed his self-confidence over and over again. When he ended up moving to another world, he thought he was able to overcome these crises during his time. But now he realized that the scars that were dug inside him have not yet healed until they turned into a psychological trauma that hinders him from moving forward in his life. He felt that someone like him is impossible to be a king, especially after realizing how strong the Demon King is in the face of the disaster, and found that the mere thought of it makes his body tremble. On the other hand, the Demon King saw that he was right, that a king is a leader who takes over the government. But it is different in their world, where the decisive feature of the king is that he has the strength to face the disaster, even if the king is not qualified to assume a leadership position, which resulted in the emergence of foolish rulers and tyrants who caused their people to suffer from poverty and hunger, which is something worse than the disaster in his view. He saw Denosuk as his only hope of realizing his ambition to eradicate the disaster and get rid of tyrannical kings around the world. While Denosuk called himself arrogant for even thinking of becoming a king one day, the Demon King knew that Denosuk was deliberately choosing the easy way to secure his life by becoming a vassal. But a true leader is one who accepts suffering of his own free will and wanted to give him the choice to either stop striving as he grew older or to accept the pain and keep moving forward. Denosuk felt the immense pressure of the king's expectations on him. He couldn't trust himself, and the dreams beyond his expectations weighed on him, and he called himself a pathetic coward. Then he remembered that the king had given him a choice from the first day he set foot in this world, and decided to return to his own world as long as he couldn't live up to the king's ambitions, and decided to resign from his position. In the evening, Denosuk was writing his resignation while Nea and Olulu were watching him from behind the door and had no idea what he was doing. While Denosuk recommended that Olulu take over as the 4th general after his departure, then decided to submit documents about the tasks he had succeeded in carrying out since he took office. As he collects the papers, he notices that there is an envelope among them, and when he starts to read it, he finds that it is a letter from the couple who sells Chimizu, expressing their gratitude for his help that day and telling him that they have prospered greatly thanks to him, and that there are many who continue to support them and look forward to his next visit to their store. Denosuk felt the urge to go and eat chimozo again, but it felt like being sent overseas at his old job, where the hardest part of the trip is saying goodbye. Olulu and Naya realized that he was leaving and decided to tell the others immediately. Denosuk decided to justify his resignation as being due to personal circumstances, and after he finished writing it, he longed to return to his home world and eat at his favorite pub again. As he sat down to reflect on his time in the demon world, he realized that he had made many friends and was fortunate enough to work under the best leader he had ever encountered, the Demon King, and felt sad that he had to leave because of his weakness. His thoughts were interrupted by the owner of the tavern. After he brought him a dish, he told him that he did not order that item. Then he was surprised by him bringing him various types of food and telling him that it was on the house, and when he asked why, the owner told him that he would close the tavern after the end of the day. Denosuk was shocked to hear the news and felt frustrated that he might not be able to clear his mind elsewhere. The bar owner told him that he didn't need to come here anymore and that he should have realized this fact a long time ago. The next day, Denosuk sat in his office thinking about what the bar owner meant, then decided to go say goodbye to everyone before he left. When he went to the genome, he was surprised to see the demon soldiers training with the half-humans. She tells him that she and Olmandra have decided to start joint training between the two races to strengthen their strength and harmony. However, she is confused about whether she has enough to allow her to bring the two races together, and fears that it will end up in another conflict that will cause a deep scratch between them. Denosuk is surprised that she thinks this way, and then finds her telling him that she is no longer afraid of change, no longer holding back her potential at a certain point, and that she has come to think this way because of him and relies on him to continue coordinating the two races. He was confused about telling her that he intended to leave and go back to where he came from, but she left before hearing his response, so he gave up and decided to go say goodbye to Sylphid, only to find her telling him that she had formed a team to work on growing wheat instead of importing it, and thought it would help solve their lack of food resources. She then expressed her relief at having this burden lifted from her shoulders, as she had been thinking about about it for a long time but hesitated to implement it because it was outside her specialty. But when confronted with her family, she brought up many bad memories. She added that one of the memories she had was when the villagers helped her and gave her food when she was starving, although they were poor, but they did not hesitate to help her. And then she realized that she should use her powers to serve the interest of the people. She then credited him with helping her face her true feelings about the matter and advised him to do the same for himself to find the ultimate answer to all his questions. Before she heard his response, she decided to get back to work and not waste any more time. He went to the roof, thinking that he had to face himself. He was surprised to see Omandra standing behind him, furious that he had ignored her and gone to talk to the others. He told her that he had intended to visit her, and when she asked what he wanted to say, he told her about the Demon King's offer to become king, which confused him and made him feel pathetic. Omandra was happy that he showed his weakness in front of her without hesitation and told him that his issue was not showing his weakness and that he was deliberately taking responsibility for everything alone to the point where he had accomplished a lot. But he forgot the most important thing. They were comrades and he could rely on her. Denosuk felt grateful to her, especially after she told him that she would stay by his side even if the whole world disappointed him, and encouraged him to keep moving forward until he became the new king. He started crying while wondering why everyone was being so nice to him, and then he was freed from his painful past when he realized that everyone was supporting him and had the confidence to accept the king's position from the Demon King. When he went to meet the king and told him his final response to his offer, he told him that thanks to his comrades, he realized that no one should deny or limit himself, and felt happy that he was recognized from day one, and expressed his desire to look for a new way to become king that did not rely on strength, because he realized that it was impossible for a strong king like him to be a king. Then he expressed his desire to continue receiving guidance and advice from him and his fellow generals, and asked to be allowed to continue to carry out missions until he finds his own way to the throne. So the king respected his desire and decided to help him in the way he sees fit to reach the top.